had a special guest, but Tim couldn't make it, so he asked me to come. So Jonn called me, I think it was on a Sunday night. I made the mistake of answering, and he asked me if I'd do some closing remarks. But before we start, a couple reminders. If you still have your room key, give it to Patrick. Somewhere he'll be in the back or somewhere around here. I think by now all of you who have keys know who Patrick is. Don't forget to do your session ratings and give your feedback. You can do it in the app. You can do it on the website. Don't forget, if you've taken pictures, to upload them on the Slack channel. It's photos-live-event, and then we'll use those. The tip jar, I think, is back there on the table for the kitchen staff who fed us really well over the weekend. And don't forget to pick up, or if you haven't dropped off your bus notes yet, then do that. So, Jonn asked me to make some closing remarks. He didn't give me much guidance, which is fine. Typical. And so I started this when I arrived on Thursday morning. And so essentially I'm going to play back to all of us who were here what we experienced in these 5 days. So first off, this is a great place to have a conference. It's very relaxing, and we're not in these rooms learning. We are in some very things that you wouldn't even imagine is here, right? And then, of course, the people. There were some excellent sessions. I took a screenshot of the one on the far right because Ivan blew me away when I saw that, because I know how incredibly hard it is to do that with AI, but he did it. And of course, Todd and Eric, Darren shaking the dependency tree, the Derricks and Clay, and Jesse, Alex also blew me away. And then there's a bit of you guys in the audience. So what did we do here? We had 6 sessions on AI. We had 9 technical sessions. We had 12 discussions. We did a lot of talking here. Some integration, and we ate a lot. And we had a lot of free time and social. But the big picture is, this wasn't the FileMaker conference with AI sessions sprinkled in. It was a community using every format that you see above there on the schedule, from panels to Lego to shared meals to renegotiate our identity in real time. We all know we're going through a real big transition. I contend it's probably bigger than the transition to 7. This is a big one. This is like internet advent plus gravity. So there's 8 patterns that came out of what we saw that I thought were worth noting, and I'll go through these. First, AI was everywhere, even when it wasn't in a track. We had the Beyond dedicated AI track, AI surfaced inside discussion sessions, in the Crossroads panel, in technical sessions. The button bar even opened up with a joke about AI, and then there was a self-titled session created using AI, and so the AI was the ambient weather of this whole week. And then we questioned our identity twice. There was the Crossroads panel that Todd and myself and Ronnie and Chris Ippolite were on, where Mike had Nova, sorry. Where Nova also participated, which is Mike's agent, and it wasn't contained in the room, right? And then we questioned our identity twice with that, right? Agentic development moved from idea to practice, right? So this was one of the most fulfilling parts of this, is especially from Claris, we could see firsthand what you guys are already doing with AI, and where we're at and where we need to come from. So that was, for me, was very instructive. We had the session from, as I said, from Ivan and Ronnie, the door in the wall, which was sort of kicked it off. And what he did live was very, very impressive for us inside looking at what's going on. pulling that off is no mean feat. So that was a good start. And then, of course, Todd and Eric did their sessions and went deeper. And so there's a maturity curve that we're seeing here. These aren't one-off demos. And then also there was a playful countercurrent that pushed back on AI saturation. The Fun with Button Bars jokes that every conference has started to feel like an AI conference. Heck, we've even talked about having AI and FileMaker mixed together because there's such a crossover. And then there was the Lego Save the Ship session that was sort of a very different way of talking about it. But it was, there's patterns and momentum that we're going against, and there's anxiety as well as what is this going to do with how I've been developing. Claris leadership chose chose access over messaging. So we didn't come and talk to you and present something to you as much as engage with you live. So it was unrecorded, so people could feel free to be open, and you guys were. You were respectful as well, so that was good. But it was really good, and I'll talk about what came out of that in a moment. And it was deliberately low control versus, as I say, a scripted roadmap pitch, right? And then, although I don't really like this title, the unglamorous work, because I don't really think it's unglamorous, but it wasn't just all AI, it's still the meat and potatoes of what we all have to do to continue to keep our clients and the solutions we build for them going. So it wasn't all AI. Soft skills also had equal real estate, right? Public speaking with John and Chris, that was a great session. And that appeared alongside the technical content. And so that we're investing, this conference is investing in the whole developer. It's not just about the toolkit. And then there were a number of sessions that had 2 slots because, the dependency tree by Darren, the under the hood by Todd and Eric, and then the Lego session ran twice as well. So we gave room for the things that needed room. But it's also about community and not just content. So there were nightly social anchors, the welcome party, the Jeopardy game, the game show night with the Wheel of Fortune, and then the final party. So we spent a lot of time together. There was the jam sessions and the bus notes that carried the tradition of Pause on Air from the Clayton, Georgia era. And we shared 13 meals over the 4.5 days. So the retreat that we're at was a deliberate choice in being able to do this kind of event. So what does this mean going forward from my perspective? So we lead with reassurance and not just capability. So agentic messaging should name the human in the loop question out loud, and the anxiety is as real as the excitement, because there's some big implications, right, about what you've been doing as consultants over all these years, and what is it going to mean when AI is a part of what it is you do with your craft. We protected the transparency habit, right? Open, unscripted engineering access is an asset over polishing and controlling a message. It is just open dialogue and with the people at Claris and answering questions, and we don't know what's going to come from you, right? There was the build business strategy track, pricing, positioning, and monetizing agentic work was something that was discussed in some of the panels, but maybe needs sessions in and of themselves about all that, because there's a lot to parse through. Then widen the pipeline conversation about succession and continuity. These are sessions by Mike and Dennis. And then, what is the viable path for new builders? Not just supporting the existing developer base. And then we really leaned further into the plugin ecosystem, and something that typically happens at conferences where the plugin developers get together. That happened, but the rest of us got to see that, and it was a really engaging. That happened yesterday. So treating plugin partners as co-owners of the agentic story could accelerate much faster than if we just were doing it internally without engaging with you. And then we need to guard the community format itself, right? We had shared meals, nightly socials, the jam sessions. These aren't just fillers. They're competitive advantage worth protecting in future events. So, people have come out of pause on error, and there's a different relaxed atmosphere. And in a conference of this size, everyone gets to see each other, especially after 4.5 days. I think we all met each other in one way or another. And so that was something as well. So what is beneath the surface? What's the deeper read here? And the visible agenda was about AI. The hidden agenda, running underneath every track, was a community quietly negotiating its own continuity, right? Who builds these apps? Who trusts whom? And what kind of platform is Claris choosing to be is something that we're all grappling with here, with each other. Now, there are 5 signals that show up when you look at this all together. The first signal was that food and social sessions, there were 13 times we ate and 5 social sessions, nearly matched the number of technical sessions that we had. So that's a good balance, right? And so what's the insight from that? The community's loyalty is anchored socially and emotionally and not just technically. The retreat format, this place in and of itself, is doing real work. It's a relaxing place to be. So what are the implications for Claris? Community glue is a genuine moat for Claris, right? Platform loyalty here won't be won and lost on features and parity alone. It has to do with the community. Second signal, 3 separate high-trust Claris touch points in 1 week. We had the unrecorded meeting with Ryan and Clay and Giuliano and Evan, and then we had a 2-part under the hood with Derek and Clay and the plugin powwow, and these are all unscripted. It wasn't a roadmap pitch. It was engaging in dialogue. So what's the insight here? Claris is letting the community self-navigate its own AI narrative rather than handing down a top-down message, and using the unrecorded room specifically to pressure test some hard questions maybe before we begin to message them and more broadly. So what's the implications for Claris here? This is a deliberate trust through openness strategy worth protecting as the agentic story unfolds. And likely where messaging for the next big announcements gets stress tested first. I know I learned a lot about what you guys already know, and so how to think about how we talk about it. Third signal, all 3 of the 2-part sessions were either purely technical, the dependency tree, the engineering internals, or purely emotional and tactile with the Lego, which was a very unique way of doing it. It wasn't just business strategy focused. So the insight here is that community's appetite is bimodal. We go deep on our craft, and we go deep on processing our feelings, especially in this transition period. But also, there's a gap in between. And because of some of the discussions we had, there's room and demand existing for future tracks on things like pricing, positioning to FileMaker clients, and monetizing agentic capabilities. And then the 4th signal, succession planning. And audit trail sessions ran the same week as the heaviest AI content. So what's the insight here? It's not a coincidence. We have an aging developer base grappling with career continuity at the exact moment that AI raises questions about who builds these apps next. We had some youth here, which was really, really good. I got inspired by, in a panel, some light bulbs went into my head by things that I heard from the youth that are here. Very inspiring. So the implications for Claris. The platform's next generations of builders may not look like the people in this room. The agentic development story needs to speak to this generation and not only us. And then finally, the fifth signal. Clay, who's our chief FileMaker architect, had his own session, the plugin powwow, the engineering things with the Derricks, and standing alongside, the engineering panel. The insight is Claris is treating the third-party plugin ecosystem as a first-class extension of the core platform, not a peripheral add-on. So what are the implications here for Claris? Expect that the plugin and partner ecosystem to play an outsized role in how agentic capability actually reaches our customers. A thread of Q&A roll up below that I'll talk about in a second when we talked with Ryan and Giuliano and Evan at the Q&A, but from the partner side. So let's go back to that first day when Ryan, Giuliano, Evan, and Clay came. What did you guys engage them with? So there were 4 questions. These are the most that we had, equal with the growth questions on what we would call operational drag, right? So the day's loudest theme: tax handling, key generation, license transfer, and SLAs, how long it takes you to get feedback, and that you as developers, when we don't do that, absorb the pain to keep the clients moving forward, right? So that was heard by Ryan loud and clear, I think. And so those are all things, obviously, that could be addressed. There were 4 questions from you all about growth and access. There were independent asks about having a presence in the App Store. There was questions about a freemium tier, student access, all converging on lowering the barrier to FileMaker purchase or first exposure, to expand out, right? There were 2 questions on the clarity of the roadmap. There was a request for a concrete 6-month roadmap. I don't know if we gave it to you, but there was a request for it. But I think that we sort of, in a way, this was what this whole week was about where we're going. There were bigger questions that circled around the whole week. What happens to FileMaker once apps can be built entirely with AI? And that's, I think, the undercurrent that we're all grappling with. There were 2 questions about the partner channel and who owns the customer, in some ways related to the one right above it. Partners want more customer use cases showcased, paired with real tension over deal registration and direct customer or Claris to customer communications, and then the plugin ecosystem thread I talked about earlier from the partner side point of view. There was 2 questions about a perception gap. The age-old, oh, I heard about FileMaker, that's still around, right? That's real, right? FileMaker is still here. The market doesn't know the platform is alive. Developers want Claris to actively push back on that perception. We have an opportunity now, the advent of agentic development, I think, for that. And then there was 1 question about education and the next generation of developers. I think a lot of this also came out of the panel session that we had that Dennis and others ran. And a concrete ask to build a higher education curriculum so students learn to solve real business problems with FileMaker before entering the workforce, and some discussion about what that could look like. So the takeaway here is trust is being spent on process, not product. Where Claris is headed on agentic AI is the question that this room most wants answered, and partners want to be pulled closer, not bypassed. So the tension running under the whole week, there's anxiety about being automated, right? Humor and hands-on craft, the Lego session, the humor in some of the sessions that weren't about AI. The community is really coping with AI anxiety by feeling in control of the tools, not controlled by them. And then genuine momentum with these AI tools. Developers are really already past something I learned here for sure, and I was so pleasantly happy to see, is we're beyond the theoretical stage, and people are actively integrating AI into daily practice. I don't know how many times I heard people saying, after I saw that session, I went to my room and I downloaded ProofKit. I started playing with it, and look what I can do, and I'm excited, or I'm trying to figure it out. That was taking place. I heard it multiple times. So what does this mean going forward? We need to lead with reassurance and not just capability. Agentic messaging should name the human in the loop question out loud, and the anxiety is real as the excitement. It's as real as the excitement. And that's where we're at right now. It's the implications. We've been doing things a certain way for a long, long time, and now we're at a radical transition point. We need to protect the transparency habit, the open, unscripted engineering access to our execs over polished and in-control messaging, which risks losing what makes this work, right? It's the honesty, it's the genuine partnership, right? Partnership means both sides listen to each other. One side doesn't talk to the other, and we saw that this week. I think that we need to also, as these things go on, we need a business track strategy where we can talk about pricing and positioning and monetizing agentic work. How do we charge for it? There was discussions about value pricing versus hourly pricing. And that was a gap, I think, that we saw this week. And a lot of these discussions took place more informally. Maybe there's a track for that. We need to widen the pipeline conversation. Succession and continuity themes call for a viable path for new builders, not just support for the existing developer community. How do we get new blood in? In this agentic era, why would someone choose FileMaker? Those are things that we need to look at, right? We need to lean further into the plugin ecosystem. Treating plugin partners as co-owners of the agentic story could accelerate and reach faster than just ourselves alone. And then we need to guard the community format itself. These shared meals, nightly socials, jam sessions, these aren't fillers, right? They're a competitive advantage worth protecting in the future event as we redesign. Everyone knows, and everyone misses engages or DevCons, because more than 50% of the value is in being able to talk to each other, to spend time with each other, right? And this is what this happened. You can't do that through Zoom. You can't do that through WebEx. It's only two-dimensional, and this is three-dimensional, and it's so exciting to get together, and we all feel that, right? So we need to really guard that because we got something special here. So what I observed, this week's central debate wasn't something that I watched from the sidelines. I was sitting on the FileMaker Crossroads panel. I attended all the sessions I could. I participated in the discussions of the upside and the excitement about AI, and also the downside of what it can mean. There was some impromptu sessions where we took the guardrails off and we really talked about some of the tough questions that AI is bringing to us as a society as a whole, not just FileMaker. I learned from and along with you, and I got inspired by our mutual community. So what I want to do now is bring the conversation together and tell you where I think the community actually landed, and I can sum it up in one word: passion. Mm-hmm. Passion. I think we all have passion here. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank the volunteers and the helpers here. Thank you. And I want to thank you, John, for full access. Johnny Appleseed is what I call him. I love this. Don't you love AI? Someone slapped this together in a short amount of time.
Ken Levy did that.
Ken Levy? Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.